All right, good afternoon, 6-4 Owls. First, go Bills. A big win last night. Um, for math this week, Math 6 Plus, we moved on to our geometry unit this week. Started talking about area and how we can decompose shapes. We're going to continue that next week, move into finding area of triangles and parallelograms. In Math 6 next week, we started our study guide on unit rates and measurement conversion today. That will be due Tuesday. We have a quiz Tuesday on measurement conversion and unit rates. And then we'll be moving on to percentages, finding percentages. All right. Miss Simonson's not here today, but in ELA, you guys are continuing to read the Percy Jackson book. If I don't know much more than that, if you have more questions, email Miss Simonson. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday.
Go Bills! If you heard last night, we beat the defending Super Bowl champions 31-10. It's a pretty bad beatdown. All right. Either way, in science this week, we did the shorter of 3 units with matter. We did states of matter and phase changes. It's a lot of what they've done before in elementary school, so we don't spend a lot of time in this section. So only on the first and second day of next week, we'll be looking at our last 2 things with states of matter. We're going to look into shaving cream and trying to break down what state of matter shaving cream is. And we will move on into our last portion of matter, which is actually our longest portion of matter, which is properties of matter. It's a really cool section of matter. There's a lot of different labs that we're going to do over the next 2 to 3 weeks. But it's a lot of vocab words. So we're going to be trying to break those into chunks and take them one day at a time. But I'm looking forward to starting properties of matter. Kids are going to enjoy it a lot. We'll start easy with mass and volume, but then we'll get into more complicated things like density, boiling points, melting points, independent, dependent properties, and physical and chemical changes. All sorts of fun things. Either way, enjoy your wonderful weekend, and look forward to seeing them next week.
All right, let's talk social studies, shall we? First of all, you got to move this so you can see the full joke. Time for tickles. Now, we started social studies today with a conversation around this kind of solemn time in America, as we had a moment of silence today in our school for what's happening on Sunday, September 11th memorials. And then also we talked a little bit about the solemn world event of the Queen Elizabeth passing away yesterday. So we had a little conversation around those 2 things, those solemn moments in our world, as we started social studies today. And then we got into what we're actually going into, which is geography, and talking about what's happening in geography. This week, we did some work with clay. So we actually took clay, modeling clay. Each kid got a plate and some clay, and they made their own 3D models of the geosphere. So they got to actually build a world that they had designed with, peninsulas and bays and mountain ranges and valleys and canyons and rivers and all of those types of things. This amateur version of a model. And now, starting today and the last couple of days, we've been starting to think about this as a professional 3D model. And so I've got a model that has pieces that go all the way around. So it's like 7 pieces of different, or this is the glacier model. You can see the glacier with this. And students will be going through in small groups, and you see the numbers that are there, and identifying the different pieces like the Valley Glacier and the different pieces around, and then answering some questions around this model that we're using. And that's kind of fun to do. It's a little bit almost like a breakout box, because they have to figure out what the number is in order to move on to the next one. And it's kind of challenging, and it's kind of fun, and it's a lot of interesting things. We also, I forgot to show you, we also took the hydrosphere, and so we actually poured on our geospheres, we actually poured water to see what would happen when the water hits the ground. That was kind of cool. Talk to your kids about it. It was an interesting conversation. Now, there's 2 other things I want to talk with you very quickly about, and one of them is what we've started to do on Fridays as a warm-up in our social studies class. So each day there is an essential question that I ask a kid at the end of the day, and then the next day in the beginning of class we review that question. So that essential question gets answered at the end of class, and then reviewed the beginning of the next class. And what I've started to do is collect those questions and put them together into a weekly exit ticket that's a graded assignment that we do on Friday. Now, that assessment is just a quick way for us to check how well you've been kind of paying attention in class. Kids have started like taking sticky notes and writing things down, totally fine. You might have noticed that on this black slide that comes out, I oftentimes put something in here that says like this: find someone at home and explain how very little human settlement occurred on the Canyon and Glacier model. Why? That's our essential question for today. So oftentimes I put it in the homework so kids are writing it down in their agenda, hopefully, and can be a conversation at home that they can review and then on Fridays. Now, what I'm also finding is that anytime there's a multiple choice assessment in my class, Mr. O was talking about how it happens sometimes in science class too, what we're finding is kids know they can do it a second time. And so they'll rush through it as quick as they can, find the wrong answers, go back and try to fix it without really thinking about what they're doing the first time. They're just rushing through and then using wrong answers to figure out the right answer. So what I've decided to do, and I told my students about this today in class, is this. On the Friday, when we do these essential question checks, it's usually 10 questions. I'm going to let them do it twice, 100% fine. But I'm going to put the first grade in the grade book on Friday so that you see, parents at home and kids see, what their first attempt was. On Monday, I'll update to the second attempt if they did it a second time. So if you're seeing 100% on Friday, that's awesome. That means they're doing great work. If you see a 50 on Friday, they got half of those questions wrong, and that's something that we need to start thinking about. Now, they might have fixed it, and their second try is 100, but that 100 is not going to come till Monday because I want you to see that first attempt, okay? So a new kind of model for our class, and hopefully you'll see some really great grades on those. A lot of my kids came and they'd go, look, Mr. Hudson, I got 100. Yes. So don't worry too much about it. It's going to be fine. Even if they're getting low grades, that's going to be some good information for us to kind of see why that is and maybe ways we can fix that going forward. Okay, so hopefully you have a great weekend. The weather is lovely. Everything is great. Enjoy everything this weekend. And if you have questions, please let us know, and we'll see you next week.